Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! So, if you can't tell from my username, I'm a pilot. Specifically, my job is to fly an air ambulance airplane. And 90% of the time, it's an awesome job. The other 10% is the type of stuff you expect that brings a job down, such as hours, paperwork, new guidelines, and the sad stuff that goes with being in a field related to medicine. Last week, however, was an experience that made me wonder how some people are able to even remotely function in society. I was at an airport in a smaller city that handles both small airline flights as well as private flying, such as flight training and corporate flights. I am waiting with the aircraft while the flight nurses are at the hospital getting the patient ready for the trip. Part of my duties is making sure the plane is cooled down and ready to go the moment that the ambulance arrives with the patient. As such, I am out walking around the plane doing checks and just visiting with pilots and the support personnel on a ramp. While out there, this guy pulls up to the chain link fence of the airport about 80 feet away and gets out of his car with his son, who appears to be around 10 or so. He starts yelling at us to come over. Okay, people in aviation are actually pretty friendly for the most part, and the kid hanging on an airport fence is something many of us were in our younger days. Myself and a pilot of a jet parked nearby walk over to talk to the guy and his kid. Oh, that was a big mistake. The guy starts out by saying he was former military and wanted to fly. But his eyes are bad, so he went door gunner in a helicopter. He's saying things and making claims that have my nonsense flag flying at full staff. Oh well, whatever, we remain cordial and ask the son if he's interested in flying. He's shy but says he is, and he wants to fly fire jets. The other pilot turned out to be a retired A-10 pilot, so he starts chatting the kid up. The father therefore is talking to me. The entitled father says, "So, what do you fly?" "That air ambulance Pilatus right there." "Cool, how fast does that go?" "Average speed is around 250 to 275. "Would you be able to give us a ride? We will pay for gas." "Sorry, company policy says I can't. Plus, I am waiting on a patient." "Can the other guy take us?" The other pilot answers, "No, my jet is privately owned and we only fly the owner and his family." "That is nonsense. Y'all have seats. Just take us for a quick flight. My kid wants to be a pilot." The other pilot tells him, "Sorry, we can't. Plus, you have to go through Transportation Security Administration to come onto the ramp and they will want you to have a pass." "Well, I am not leaving until one of you guys gives me a ride." At this point, the other pilot and I walked away back to our planes. This guy gets in his car and drives over to the vehicle access gate, remotely manned from inside the building, and basically parks his car in front of it. A Transportation Security Administration agent walks out and tells the guy to leave. The entitled father just locks the doors and rolls up the windows. About 5 minutes into this, I get the text that the ambulance has left the hospital and is on the way. Soon after, a police car pulls in behind the guy and starts to question him. Because of all of this, the ambulance had to be led through another gate and then escorted across the airport. I was told that the threat of arrest was enough to get compliance, but the guy still got a trespassing notice as well as a citation for impeding an emergency vehicle. Wish the kid all the best. With a father like that, he will have a hard road. Disclaimer: this story is not meant to belittle single mothers nor people with mental illness, and yes, I do love my mom, but this was a story about how things can come back to bite you. So, just some backstory here. My parents divorced when I was just in kindergarten, so no more than 6. My mom got full custody of us and she suffered from mental illness. I believe she has borderline personality disorder, and she was also a typical narcissistic parent. Anyway, ever since the divorce, she would always tell us how it was not her fault we didn't have enough money for things and blame my dad. Example, if there was nothing to eat for breakfast and we complained like small children do when they were hungry, she snapped, "It's your father's fault, so cry to him." I just learned never to complain and do that and spent my childhood taking care of her. My sister and I were trained from when I was about 8, my sister was 10, to come right home from school and do our homework and clean the house and take care of ourselves. Do not ask mom to make dinner. Make it yourself and all of the other chores. So mom doesn't have to do anything. It sounds bizarre, but we thought that was normal. It got worse my senior year of high school. My grandma died a few months before that summer, and my mom quit her job and blew through the money my grandma left her before the summer was over. This was close to $75K back in 2000. She refused to get another job and kept coming up with excuses not to work, i.e., I need a break, get off my back, I hurt my leg, and so on. While she was going out drinking with her friend and acting like a carefree teenager. So I spent my senior year working hard at school, in my part-time job after school, and pretty much taking care of an overgrown child who refused to work or help out. Anytime my utilities shut off or there was no food left in the house, she just griped, "You have a job, why can't you pay it?" If I brought up the fact that my dad sent her child support, she would just complain that she had my sister's tuition, which I later learned that it was basically crap. She would flaunt that child support check and laugh and refer to it as mommy's paycheck. Flash forward to when I'm about to choose a college, and my mom keeps bellyaching about the costs and of course has zero saved in a college fund. I couldn't afford the private university, so I only was offered a partial scholarship, so I decided to go to a reasonably priced and still highly regarded state university. My freshman year I was pretty much able to swing the cost of tuition and room and board. I lived on campus. Since last year of high school I filed my taxes and FAFSA, pre-application for federal student aid, as soon as my wage and tax statement came in, so I had a decent amount of grants. During my first year of college I almost became unable to receive financial aid for my second year of college. Why? My wage and tax statement were mailed to my home address, and my mom, being the caring and supportive mother she was, shredded them and threw them in the trash. I found out because my sister was home that weekend and saw it. My mom denied that when I came home for spring break and pressed her for it, she lied and said her friend had them. Her friend was a certified public accountant. My sister called my mom out on this bluff by calling the friend who said she did not have any of our tax information. She was very concerned and told me and my sister to request duplicate wage and tax statements and have them sent home, and she will have my mom send them over to me. My mom was pissed that we had checked with her friend and called her out on her bluff, but true to her word, her friend did my taxes for me and my FAFSA. I had offered to pay her or at least babysit for her, but she told me it was okay. I think she knew my mom was mentally unstable and felt sorry for me and my sister. At this point I learned that my mom had not been helping out my sister at all with tuition like she claimed, and my sister had mentioned it to my dad, who had called her out and demanded to know where the child support was going to. My mom insisted he wasn't paying her enough money, and that's why she couldn't help us out. During my second year of college, my wage and tax statements were once again sent home, and my mom once again accidentally threw them in the trash. I had to request duplicate wage and tax statements from my summer job, not just once but twice, because she kept throwing them in the trash. I filed my tax return late that year, and as a result, my FAFSA was filed late, so I wasn't able to get the full amount I was receiving before. Anytime I complained to her about money or no food in the house, it was, "Complain to your father." Well, the summer before my third year I was burned out on my mom's crap. I was working full-time for the summer and saving as much as I could, but she was refusing to help me out at all while I was home with food or anything. She was pissed that instead of paying the phone bill so she could make long-distance calls to her online friends and spend all day in chat rooms, this was back when we had dial-up, I had the audacity to spend my hard-earned money on a cell phone and pay that bill myself. She told everyone I should just drop out because I wasn't applying myself hard enough. I was in the honors program, and she would play martyr with all her friends about how it's so hard when you have kids in college and they eat your out of house and home and come to you for money. At the end of the summer, I had saved $1,000, but the school won't let me move into the dorm unless I paid 50% upfront, which was about 10k. I didn't know what to do as all summer the university had told me I was fine, and then on move-in day, they told me I couldn't move into the dorm. I called my dad in a panic and he spoke to someone who agreed to give me 24 hours. I moved in, and the next day my dad showed up first thing with a coffee and a donut for me and told me not to worry. He was going to fix this once and for all. We went from office to office on campus and he co-signed a loan, which he later paid off for me, and then he paid the balance of my tuition for the loan didn't cover. He then took me out to lunch and told me the truth. My mom never helped my sister with her tuition. My sister had graduated the summer before my junior year of college. My sister later confirmed this, but was not surprised my mom had lied. My dad had a co-signed loan to help my sister out, which he later paid off for her too. And my sister was able to get a scholarship and do co-op to pay for her last 2 years. He also advised me that my mom was not so poorly off. As part of the divorce settlement, he had to pay the mortgage and property taxes on our house, and even though my sister was now out on her own, he was still paying her the same amount of child support of about 2k a month, despite the fact that I was living on campus for 75% of the year and my mom was not giving me a dime. Just to give you some clarification, my tuition and room and board before financial aid kicked in was 15k a year. So she could have easily helped me out with school since after financial aid kicked in, when I was able to get it, the balance was usually 6k. I was hurt to think my mom was just living off my child support and constantly making me feel guilty for wanting anything or for not being able to cater for her every whim. She would get pissed that I wouldn't come home on the weekends to help her clean the house that I was not living in. I thought about how bad she made me feel growing up and made me feel worthless, when in fact had it not been for me or my sister, she would have not had a roof over her head after the divorce. He asked me to grant him access to my account so he could prove my mom was not paying for college and that I was. He asked me how I would feel if he took care of college instead of paying my mom child support. Sounded good to me. He even told me I could spend my breaks at his house instead of my mom's. I called my mom and told her that my dad had taken care of the issue and she had no remorse. She told me it was my own fault for not planning my finances better and for pissing away my money all summer. I just played it dumb and said she was right, but pointed out I had done what she told me to do and complained to my dad. A month later, my mom called me up pissed. My dad had spoken with the court and there was going to be a hearing in their divorce case. My dad had proven that my mom had not been paying for mine nor my sister's tuition for college, and that was the very reason my dad was obligated to pay child support till I was done with college. Since I was living on campus, it didn't make sense to pay her child support when I was not living at home most of the year and she wasn't giving me 1 penny. My dad told the judge he would gladly pay for me to finish college, but he was not going to pay my mom any more child support or pay the mortgage on the house. My mom did not want to take over the mortgage. They could sell the house and I could live with him over my breaks. My mom was freaking out over this and calling me selfish. I just reminded her that my tuition must cost a lot of money than what she got in child support since she was never able to help me with the cost of school. She just kept laying guilt trips on me about how I was selfish because she didn't get to go to college right after high school and how she never got to have 4 carefree years of college. I pointed out to her that she had not worked since my grandma died about 3 years ago, and that I was working and going to school at the same time while she got to live a carefree life. She tried to get back at my dad by not paying utilities on the house to make it seem like she needed the money. She then told me that the electric and water were now shut off, so if I wanted to come home for winter break, I needed to help her out. She had moved in with her boyfriend at his condo. I just told her that I would miss her but that I would just go to my dad's for winter break. She was pissed and cried about how selfish I was for not wanting to come home for Christmas. Side note, the Christmas before my presents would throw out many of my personal belongings. Why? My mom was pissed off at me that I didn't want to come home one weekend to help her clean. because to get home I had to take 2 buses, 2 trains, spend $20 one way and wait for her to hopefully remember to pick me up at the train station, which was a whole 20-minute drive for her after I had traveled for 4 to 5 hours because I had finals and I told her I would help her clean for the holidays once I came home for winter break. And her response? She took all of my things, threw them in boxes, and threw them out on the front lawn. Most of my things were destroyed by being left in the rain and I being away most of the time. I told my mom that I would come and visit her over my winter break once she got the utilities turned on. I told my dad what was going on and he said he and my stepmom and my half-brother and sister were thrilled I was going to stay with them for winter break, and he can get me a job in his office as well for winter break. He also called my mom and reminded her that the child support had not stopped, and they were going to list the house in a few months. So what was this nonsense about the utilities being shut off? She was pissed but magically came up with the money to turn them back on. That spring, my dad officially by the court took over my college tuition, and he even made sure I got my full financial aid since he had picked up the wage and tax statement for me. My mom lost her child support and was told by the judge that she better cooperate with the sale of the house and keep up with the utility bills and so on, so it would sell. Her boyfriend moved in with her till the house sold and she moved to another time zone. The real kicker? It was cheaper for my dad to pay college costs than to pay her child support. No regrets. Edit. Some have asked how she treated us growing up. Well, she wasn't 100% bad, but her bad moments were pretty bad. Granted, I have met a lot of people who have had it worse, so I try to remember that. I at least had my father and my sister, and that going through something like that has taught me to be strong and to rely on myself.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.